היי, שלום לכולם, אני יעל עיני, ויחד איתי נמצאת מירב שרייבר וקארל היינץ ראושר. מירב ואני מורות ומנחות בבית הספר דרך הקונסטסלציה של ישי גסטר, ואנחנו מביאות בינואר את קארל היינץ ראושר לסדנת סימפטומים של קונסטסלציה. היום אנחנו נדבר על איך עושים את זה בזום, אם ונצטרך, אנחנו מקוות שלא, אבל תמיד קיים סיכוי שכן, בעידן של ימינו. אז קצת מירב הולכת לראיין אותו על איך עושים את זה בזום עם הרבה משתתפים. אז בואו נקשיב לראיון.
Okay, hello everybody. I'll translate a bit what Yael said. Yael and me, my name is Mirav and Yael Aini. We are both teachers and constellators in the school, the Constellations Path of Yishai Gaster. And we are here with Dr. Karl Heinz Rauscher that we invited to give a workshop in Israel. He's coming in January 14 to 16, 2021. And we meet today to talk with you, Dr. Karl Heinz, about the possibility, if needed, to move the workshop into Zoom. And I know as a constellator, many people ask me, so how does it work in Zoom, this thing? Like what's happening there and how do we feel the representatives? And so maybe you can, from your experience, I work with Zoom and Yael works in Zoom, but really when you come and you work with your special symptoms and voice healing and with a very large group of people, maybe you can say something how it works, yeah.
Yeah, hello everybody. Yeah, we still hope that we can have a workshop in person to person in January in Israel, but just in case that we have to transform it into a Zoom format, it is possible, and I did that this year and facilitated several workshops on Zoom. Workshops which should have taken place in the United States of America, in Boston, in Washington, D.C., in May this year. So we had, because of Corona, we had to transform it into a Zoom format. And the question was, of course, how does that function? To have 40, 50 or more people in a Zoom room, in a Zoom space, and do constellation work, and also to the shamanic part of that, healing voices. And we made really good experiences with that. And one of my questions was, will it be possible to create a community feeling in the online format or not? And I just can say that this is really possible. And everybody was very glad about that. And we formed a group, and the community was forming, and the constellation work was going very well. But of course, it was different because the people were not together in one room. So what I did was, and what I would do also in this workshop, if we have to have an online format, I will do the constellation like I do on Zoom or Skype, online, worldwide, when I do single-to-single constellations. And I use papers as placeholders on the floor, and the names of the positions are written on there. And I go from one position to the next one and gather the information. And the participants are also invited, if they want, especially in the collective constellations, to choose to be a representative for this or another position, just to stand up in their room, in their house, where they have their computer, maybe stand next or behind the chair, and just imagine standing in a specific position, which they see on screen, laid out on a big in a big space, in a big venue, which I rented here in Bavaria, in Germany, and the positions are marked with papers, So, and then we combine our information input. And in the personal work, I did the most of the representing work, and some of the experienced participants added their perspective to that too. But especially in the collective constellations, which we chose, for example, the group chose to make a constellation for the messages of Corona pandemic for mankind. So this is a typical collective issue, and in these constellations there were 30, 40, or even more than 50 positions laid out in that room, and everybody, all the participants were invited to represent some of the positions which they liked. They chose them, and I did. In addition to that, I also was a representative in every position, one after the other. Again, after the constellation was evolving, going back to all the constellation, to all the positions, and that's the way we did it. And people could talk about it during the constellation in the collective constellations. In the personal, it was not so possible to hear everybody what they would receive in the positions, because this was very tense and private work. But it did function, it did work, and everybody was intrigued and happy to have experienced those workshops.
So when you choose to work with one participant, and the participant works only with you, or he chooses from the group representatives?
No, this is, like in a person-to-person situation, there's first an interview, and then we just talk about which positions we need, and then I write those positions on pieces of paper, and then they can, the client then chooses where this position should be in the constellation. So they decide that, and then I lay those positions out. And then I do all the representative work, like in a person-to-person situation, which my daily work is. We do every day several Skype or Zoom constellations worldwide. And some of the participants could do that in their room, in their house, but it was not heard during the personal constellation. This would have been too much. But this is the difference. In the collective constellations, they could just go into a position and talk. So we were, during the constellation, we were hearing everybody who was choosing to stand in a position. So this was a difference between personal constellation and collective constellations in that Zoom format.
Yeah, and the audience can, the client and the audience have a camera, they can see where you position, or?
Yes, it's like, yeah, of course, everybody can be seen, and everybody can see. And of course, the constellation space was on the big screen. But if somebody was talking, and of course there was plenty of room to ask questions. So when somebody was talking or commenting or asking a question, they were also on like in Zoom, always also on the big screen. So we saw each other, and there is also in the Zoom format, there is the gallery view, which you can see all the participants on one screen. These are then little pictures, but you could change. You can change that yourself. Everybody can choose what they see. But of course, yes, they see and they hear.
And so the part of your voice healing is the same, like it would be face-to-face with you?
Yes, with the healing voices, with the shamanic healing energies, this is even more easier, because I found out that it's not necessary to be in the same room. I do this on Zoom and Skype many times. Healing voices, the shamanic work, and it works through space. There is no difference in the effects or the healing work, and everybody was touched. So there was no difference whatsoever. Of course, maybe, if you're in a room together with a group and experiencing that with a group, of course that's different, and we would all choose to do that. But to have a Zoom format in times where we cannot meet, it's a great and effective possibility. And the advantage, of course, is that everybody in the world can participate as long as they understand English. And this is, of course, also wonderful. So you can work with and meet people which you never would meet otherwise.
Yeah. I have one more question. Do you give time for questions and answers if the audience wants to question?
Yeah, there's a lot of time for that.
Yeah.
This is there's a lot of time. So every question will be answered. Every comment and input is also heard. So this is just like in a person-to-person workshop, that we have also room repeatedly for questions, understanding, and also for comments out of the positions. So there is a lot of room for that, and has to be also.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah, so Dr. Karl-Heinz, I want to make maybe more clear for the audience or the witnesses that are participating in a constellation that you facilitate for one of the clients that, I don't know how you choose them or they choose to participate. So yeah, what can you say is the possibilities of the Zoom actually format for the audience to feel part of it? Yeah.
Well, if I do a personal constellation on Zoom in a group, then I do the most representative work, as I already explained, but the participants are invited to choose to stand in a position in their room. They just stand up, stand behind their chair, and just imagine standing in this position, which they see on the screen, and they can do it at the same time simultaneously with me, or maybe also simultaneously with other people who just choose to stand for the father or the grandmother or whatever. But they will not be heard right away, because this would be too disturbing in a personal situation. But there will be always space after a personal constellation to report and to share the experiences in those positions, if somebody did choose to stand there during the constellation. And I think it's also interesting to have this conversation about why did somebody else feel something differently or something different in a constellation, in a position, and why are others perceiving other levels of this deeper truth. And this is interesting. It's an interesting conversation, and you would not have that in a normal person-to-person workshop. So that it is a disadvantage that you cannot stand for a long time in the constellation, but it's also an advantage that you can talk about different perceptions. And I mean, sometimes it's also tiring to stand for half an hour or an hour in one position in a constellation, and nothing is maybe happening around this part of the constellation, and you still have to stand there, and maybe you have to you receive negative energy, so it's can be also sometimes a burden in a person-to-person workshop. And in this Zoom situation, you just stand in your imagination in a position, and if you have it, if everything is coming to you, and then you sit down and get out of that, and maybe later on to another one. So there are disadvantages and advantages of a Zoom format. And to talk about the healing voices, which normally 89 to 90% of my constellations have a healing voices, shamanic healing part at the end. And the shamanic energies, they will touch everybody if they are invited. So everybody who is in the room, also the online Zoom room, is possibly touched by the healing energies on their personal level if they are open for that. It's easy to block if you don't want that, so nothing happens on your level then. But if you're open, so many people have healing sensations on the body level or the soul level. So really everybody is somehow part of the picture. And this, the same questions, of course, were coming in the beginning of the Zoom workshops in the States in the spring. But after the workshop or during the workshop, everybody had then the experience and the feeling that they were really also getting a profit out of witnessing and being there and witnessing those personal constellations. And in the collective constellations, this was, as I just already told, different. So there is more participation possible there in the representative positions.
Yeah, yeah. I can imagine a client having a father figure standing in the States, in Europe, in Israel. Getting all kinds.
Yeah, you have to, you get different facets of representation.
Exactly.
And yeah, so
beautiful. Yeah, beautiful. So yeah, as we said before, we really pray for the gods of Corona to open the sky and to be all healthy and welcome you in open arms to Israel. And if not, then we will be here. We continue to meet here.
Yeah, I look forward to that. And well, we will see what happens.
Yeah.
But we are prepared on all levels. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Diane.
I thank you for talking to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.